All right, I believe we are live. Exciting stuff. All right, let me grab my notes. Nerve-wracking stuff, man. Hello and welcome back to an episode of the Morning Cup of Joe podcast. Today's episode is a little different, but in today's episode, we are talking about, how do I break this down? I guess I would say three of the most common mistakes that small creators make on YouTube that they don't really know about. So before we get into this, I'll give you a little bit of a intro into why I'm giving this information and, why I'm qualified. Like, who am I, right? But as far as this goes, personally, I'm a small creator. So I'm giving you just the mistakes that I've made as a small creator, from a small creator to a small creator, just so that you know, like things that I've recently figured out after I worked on a couple of videos with Mr. Beast. Actually, the recent 2 videos that came out, I helped as a production assistant on those. So behind the scenes, I was able to see how some of that stuff happens. And I've got a few friends of mine that I've been able to kind of lend some advice and kind of tell me some things I've been doing wrong. And I've taken the last 6 months of my life to really go all out on YouTube. I dropped out of school. I had a couple opportunities come up that I worked on, and now I've just been trying to figure out all things YouTube. In the sense of I want to do YouTube about something I'm passionate about, which is what you should do, and not just what's going to get you views. That's like the big thing. But before we get started, grab a cup of something you fancy. Let's take a sip. We have a lot to talk about. I got my coffee, my lens-shaped mug. It is the Morning Cup of Joe, after all. And so getting started, I've got my little handy-dandy notebook here. I'm going to go ahead and kind of break down the 3 tips. But before we do, I just want to say welcome. Hope you're having a good day. I'm having a good day. Yeah, it's been kind of nuts, really. This is the first live stream that I've done on this channel, and we're bringing season 3 of the podcast back, which I'll talk about later on. But right now, getting back into this, the biggest 3 mistakes that small creators make on YouTube is just making selfish content. And when I say all 3 of these, I'm going to go into all 3 of them. I'm going to break them down. We're going to talk about it. That's how I kind of want to go about it. But when I say these, keep in mind, I've personally made all 3 of these mistakes. I see all these 3 mistakes all the time. And when I see a channel that's doing well versus a channel that's not doing well, just as a viewer on YouTube, I can kind of see this stuff happening. So again, number 1, making selfish content. Number 2, not focusing the attention on the title and the thumbnail, or just misleading people. Like if you have a thumbnail and it's you jumping off a building, but you're just sitting there drinking a cup of coffee, people are going to feel misled and they don't like that feeling, right? And then 3, jumping all over the place, whether it's in the video or with the channel. This is something I was really bad with. But, I started my YouTube channel with food challenges. Eventually, I started vlogging, and then I was trying to make reaction videos. And so I was making all these types of videos. Anytime I made progress with any of those videos, I lost it by jumping over somewhere else and just making something that people don't care about. And to kind of break this down, we're already talking about jumping all over the place. We'll just keep going with that. You have to understand that there is an interest for anything that you create. Like if you're into it, people are into it as well. There are plenty of people that love photography, that love talking about cameras. There's people that just love gear reviews. And so the more specific you can be, there's still going to be people into those things. And you got to be careful, because when I say don't jump around all over the place, what usually happens is you have a creator who's maybe grown, that we'll say they're here, right? And they watch another creator skyrocket here, or they're looking at the creators here because that's where they want to go. But you have to realize there's different creative processes for different people, and there's different things that people do. You might have a movie star that was in a movie, it was a big hit, and now they're starting a vlog and it takes off. Why? It's not because people are necessarily into vlogging, but they're into that movie star, and there's enough people behind them that they're able to monetize that and kind of reach their goals with that. Unfortunately, we're not movie stars. Unfortunately, we don't have those big, giant cult-like followings of people that just want to see who we are. Like, at the end of the day, the biggest thing that I've learned as a small-time creator and just as a person in general is that people don't care. I mean, they do, but they don't, in the sense that if YouTube was purely just a money game, right? You got to think about it like this. have you ever seen a commercial? We've all seen commercials. We've all seen ads. We've all seen that stuff. I mean, you look at Super Bowl ads. People are a little more keen to watch Super Bowl ads for obvious reasons. But when you see a commercial, there's companies putting millions of dollars into a commercial. And guess what? Just so that the hope that someone will see it. But what ends up happening is whenever I see an ad pop up and there's those 5 seconds, I click off the second it's done. Or I just refresh the page and hope it goes away. I'm not sitting there trying to watch the ad. So if YouTube is a money game, then the more money you spend on the videos and the cameras and everything like that, then the more success you'd have, right? But that's not how it is. So people don't care about the money you put in necessarily unless they have a reason to care. And that's the same with you as well. People don't care who you are unless they have a reason to. There is so many creators. It's saturated, but that's not an excuse because, I mean, like I said, there's so many people watching YouTube. There's so much happening right now. As long as you have a story to tell or something to showcase people, or if you're passionate about something, those are the things that matter more than anything. But the other thing that matters is you got to be consistent with that. And I don't want to just spit a bunch of things that you could hear any YouTuber, anybody talk about. Like, I'm not trying to parrot information. But you have to think the reason why consistency is so important is there's just more opportunities for people to see what you're up to and to actually take an interest. And if you're consistent over something over a course of time, it's almost like people talk about the YouTube algorithm. I've learned very recently that all the algorithm cares about is keeping people on YouTube. And a lot of small creators just don't have, I mean, when you really think about it, I don't have the budget for a Hollywood style movie or setup or a TV show, right? You probably don't either. We're not making a full-time income. I'm not making Mr. Beast money here. I'm not making Casey Neistat money or whoever your favorite YouTuber is. You know, I'm not making Marquise Brownlee money. I can't spend 6 figures on hiring people or on camera gear or anything like that. So I'm doing the best that I can with what I have. And when, again, we're not able to throw the money at the things we're trying to do. So you have to understand that sometimes the quality isn't quite there. And that's why YouTube is so special, is it's about you. It's not about the money or the budget or anything like that. Like, there's people making videos on their laptops about cooking that, hey, you know, as long as the story's there, people are watching. But again, jumping around everywhere, I just want to finish this up with this. If you're a small creator and you're trying to grow, like, it's really going to depend on what your specific goal is. Because all the things I've said so far is really good things for if you're trying to grow on YouTube. If you just have fun making YouTube videos, disregard. If you're just having fun, try as many things as you want. Do whatever you want. Like, make whatever, that's the freedom. But if you're trying to grow and in an audience and try to gain a following and try to make an income on YouTube and try to get that kind of, my biggest thing with YouTube, my biggest goal is that satisfaction for myself and for my creativity. I try to create things that I'm proud of, and I put those out. And it's almost like photographers and Instagram before it switched over to the reels, right? But there was something that I loved about taking a photo, posting it up there, and then just the people seeing that were kind of my payoff. That's how YouTube is for me personally. And if you're gonna make YouTube videos, the other thing to wrap this first point up is you got to do it for the right reasons. You got to have the right motivations to be there. You got to have people in mind, not money on mind. And when I say people on in your mind, I'm not talking about the number of people, but like a specific person. There was an exercise that I did with a YouTuber friend of mine, and what they had me do, and it was kind of annoying at the time, but it makes sense now. But they had me go ahead and create my perfect viewer. And before, I was so keen to try to move on to the stuff that I thought was important that I would always be like, oh yeah, my ideal viewer is 18 to 24. They like photography. I'd always skip past all that stuff, but they had me actually write down what's your ideal viewer's name? What are their interests? What do they enjoy? How old are they? Where do they live? And they had me break down this person like a real person. And when I did that, my guy, the person that I made, my ideal viewer, his name is Franklin Meyer. So Franklin, if you're watching this, hey, it's kind of weird because I just made you up, but no, like, that was one thing that really helped put things in perspective, because my ideal viewer is Franklin Meyer from Nashville, Tennessee. He's 21 years old, and he loves photography, and he's trying to be a better photographer. So, one of the things that he loves is when he's able to take information, learn that information, and use that to go create something cool. And what he doesn't love is when his creative limitations are what stands in the way of getting the shots that he wants to get. Knowing that information, now whatever video ideas, because video ideas, I know some people have problems with that in the beginning when they don't know what to make content about, but video ideas come very easily after you get your ideal audience set in stone and after you kind of get those things figured out. And so now whenever I make a video idea, I can go ahead and get the idea. If the idea is good, I can think of the title, I can think of the thumbnail, I can go ahead and ask myself, does it pass a Franklin check? Is Franklin going to actually have an interest in this video? Is he going to actually care about this and click on this video? Why or why not? And if it passes that, I proceed with the video. And if it doesn't, maybe I either try a different idea or try to rework the idea so that it will pass that test. And that, just taking that extra time to prepare, has made the biggest difference for me personally. And in that process, and it's something that I notice that the people that are successful on YouTube do. They have the video in their mind and they plan beforehand. Like if you just get a camera, you hit record, there's something that's nice about documenting, but you have to realize that anytime you have a camera in your hand, anytime you do anything creative, there is three aspects of creation, right? There is, we'll say photography now, but there's photography as a hobby, as an art, and as a business. And if you're documenting things, you can repurpose content. That's fine. But again, people don't necessarily care who you are because they don't know who you are yet. So documenting isn't the preferred way to go about it, because that's more of like a hobby. You're documenting your life. You're doing that. You're not getting paid for that yet, right? So it's not a business, and you're not making a documentary per se, unless you are. If you're a filmmaker, if you're someone making a documentary, then I guess that is either the art or the business for you. But you got to think about it. Is that's a hobby? And if that's your hobby, right, you're going to have a different approach than if it's your business or if it's the art of what you're doing, right? And I say that to say this. When you're making YouTube videos, it starts to turn a little bit. You got to wear a lot of hats. That's why I'm wearing a hat today. You got to wear different hats. I got my podcast hat on today, but if I was going to make this video like I'm telling you, I would start off by wearing the business hat and then do all the business aspects, the title, the thumbnail, the description, the ideal viewer. And then I would switch over to my creator hat, pick up my camera, and then that's when I'd be creative. So when you can plan like that before you shoot, you'll go from shooting and doing this stuff for hours to the point that you're just going to burn out to now you're able to get it done in half the time or a third of the time. That's why I'm able to make this podcast now, is because I've been able to switch my workflow in such a way that now I got time for stuff like this. I've never been live before. I don't know how this works. I spent all day yesterday trying and failing different things, unable to go live until I finally figured it out today, because I have that extra time for myself and I'm still posting shorts. I'm still posting videos. It's great. But again, this isn't, I mean, it is technically the Joe show, but you get what I'm saying. Now I want to talk about the second mistake, not focusing on title and thumbnail or just misleading people. We talked about this a little bit, but when you're really trying to go hard with YouTube, it can be very tempting to just make the best thumbnail you can make about anything. But you really got to ask yourself. That's why getting the idea and going off the idea first is so important, rather than picking up the camera and recording first. Because if you have the idea, you can take that idea, you can make the title. After you make the title, you can figure out what it's about. And those kind of happen at the same time. But after you get that, you get the thumbnail, like all that goes together. Now everything connects together, and that's what it's supposed to do. You use the title and the thumbnail as a tool to kind of tell your viewer what it's about just by looking at it, because we can't just be on the internet just going, hey, yeah, you'll like this video. Come try. We're not hot dog vendors on the side of the street in New York City. We can't just like wave people down on YouTube. That's what our thumbnail and our title have to do. So it doesn't matter how good your video is if nobody wants to click on the thumbnail. It's almost better to have, in terms of growing on YouTube, it's better to have like a video that's, I don't know, 50% of the capacity of what you could create and 100% of what you can make on a thumbnail, rather than vice versa. Because that's how I used to create. I used to put everything I had into my videos and only about half of what I had into the thumbnails, because I just want to get the video out there. And that leads to no one clicking. But if you do the other way around, you can work on your video making processes and that threshold, and eventually your 50% now will be 150 later on as you make them. That's why when you hear people like Mr. Beast talking about making your first 100 videos, that's why they're probably not going to get views. Is you're going to have to, one, you got to figure this stuff out. Two, you got to kind of figure your way around the camera and the lights, like setting up lights, setting up camera, setting up mics, getting everything going. That can be very it can be overwhelming. It can be disheartening. It can be frustrating. And so as you kind of nail down, there's so many aspects to being a YouTuber. If I own a photography business, I reach out to somebody or they reach out to me. I throw around numbers and I gather expectations. I go shoot, I edit, I deliver. That's it. But with a YouTube video, you got to think, not only do I have to make the video, but I have to make a preview of the video with a thumbnail and a title, and I've got to talk about what it's about. And usually when you got like people in Hollywood doing this, when you look on Netflix, all those little pictures of on the movies, those are all thumbnails, but I don't have a whole logistics team to put this together for me yet. I mean, hopefully one day I'm able to take the money that I make, hire some people out, and I'm able to do more of what I love about YouTube, and I can hire out for the other stuff. But as of right now, I'm a one-man band. I'm a one-man team. So I got to really save the time where I can. And that's why I'm saying this to you, is because it has been the biggest game changer to me. Putting my time and effort into the thumbnail has made the thumbnails much easier to create, much quicker to create, and I've gotten my own style. And as a photographer, you're probably chasing your photography style. Same thing with thumbnail, same thing with videos. You want to be able to be familiar and creative at the same time. And so again, not focusing on the title or the thumbnail or just trying to trick people. You know, you're not a car salesman trying to get commission, right? You're somebody that loves making videos. And there is somebody, I promise you, there's probably a lot of people that love what you're making. You just have to work on those big, I mean, they're not even little things. Those are big things. You're so focused on the little things, you got to get the big things down first. And then trust me, you know, what do they say? Build it and the people will come. You know, you do these things and it'll happen. And you don't believe me? Just keep watching, you know, the channel and you'll see it pretty soon. It's coming. I feel the energy. I feel things coming. I'm excited to have that coming. And so I want to go ahead and get back to the first point I was trying to make about this, but that's making selfish content. That was a big thing for me. I used to listen to a lot of Gary Vee, and he talks about documenting instead of creating. And that's cool and all. It's not a bad thing to do, again, but I'm a videographer, I'm a photographer, I'm a filmmaker. I'm wearing these hats, these different creative hats. And I do that. I've done that professionally, running a business. I've done that for myself. I've done that in school. I've done that in like different aspects, right? So for me, it actually is about the creation, not documenting. I'm not doing my photography to document the photography necessarily. Like I do look back at it, but I kind of do my documentation photos for me. Like that's photos of my daughter. That's photos of my dog. It's photos of the thing that I enjoy, but I don't put my photography spin on that. My photography spin is something I'm going out and creating and figuring out and making happen, right? Same with the video. So documenting and creating is good for a generic statement, but just for this, I guess it wasn't. Because again, you know, I'm not trying to be a vlog channel. I make POV photography videos. That's my niche. That's what I've kind of taken things from and brought it down to. You know, I was all over the place. I was making a little bit of everything. And, you know, I didn't niche down. Well, I'm glad I niched down now. I'm glad things are good now. But for the longest time, I never niched down. And that cost me so much time, energy, and frustration that now it's really nice to go really deep into one thing. Because I think the closest I've had to having a niche is photography and filmmaking. But those are two very broad, very wide, very huge topics to cover. And so now being able to narrow it down, I can reach the people that I can reach Franklin Meyer. I can reach the people I want to reach. And then it becomes about the person that you're trying to help. Because my whole thing with YouTube is I've made a lot of mistakes on YouTube. I've made a lot of, I mean, not just YouTube, as a creator. And my whole thing of the POV photography series, again, trying to be an example here and give you an example. When I was making the POV photography videos, and I was making all these mistakes, right? When I was making all these mistakes before I made the POV photography videos, when I was doing all that, I spent so much time, energy, frustration. I said that earlier, but now with YouTube, I'm making a channel dedicated to helping people get past those things. And instead of taking a year to be the photographer they want to be, maybe bringing that down to 6 months. Instead of taking 10 years to be, I've been creating for 8 years. If I can help people get to where I'm at in half the time, then that's a success. And again, that's people driven. That's not me driven anymore. But you look at my YouTube videos from before, and I would make videos going on with whatever was happening in my life. I'd make a video about when I bought an RV. I was making videos about when I was in Hawaii, and I was like, look at me, and I'm showing off. And when I was doing that, of course I didn't have the views and the engagement, because who was I helping? What problem was I solving? What was I teaching? What was I doing? My YouTube videos were literally like an Instagram feed. It was literally, hey, I took a picture eating this ice cream cone. I test drove this car, and I got in this RV, and I did this stuff. And I don't want to say that your life's not interesting and things you aren't interesting or anything like that. But again, the reason that I don't have this huge successful vlog channel with millions of people is people don't know who I am. So if they don't know who I am, why are they going to care about the RV that I drove? Or why are they going to care about the vacation that I went on? Why are they going to care about these things? They don't even know who I am. So I got to introduce myself. And when you're talking to people, you don't go to people on the street and just say, hi, my name's Joe. I love RVs. I love adventuring. I love travel. I love photography. I love this, because then they'll probably say something like, yeah, well, welcome to Starbucks. Can I get your coffee for you? Like when you meet somebody, it's, hey, what's going on? Hi, how are you? What's your name? Oh, my name's Joe. What are you up to? What are you doing? You kind of have this follow up back and forth. That's how YouTube's got to be. Like, it is a channel about you and your specialties and your passions and the things you got to do. But you kind of take what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what you want to, like, what your goal is. If it's making money, what's going to make you some money. And you kind of have this giant triangle here, right? You try to find the center of that, you're going to be successful. And so, if you're here for the things that I've learned on YouTube, that's kind of, you're good at this point. I will wrap up the podcast. I did want to talk about, I've got my little podcast topics in my little pocketbook. Put this on the list of things I don't use enough, so that's what we're doing here. I wanted to talk a little bit about how I got started on YouTube. Now that I am making these podcasts again, I would love to kind of introduce myself, have a more personable role here, instead of just bringing content and then having people be like, who's this guy? Since I'm doing the podcast, I got a little longer to talk to you. I do want to have that personal feel on there as well. And I want to talk about why I didn't start sooner, my excuse, and hopefully me talking about that resonates with you and you're able to kind of stop procrastinating on the stuff you want to do. So I guess quickly we'll get into how I started on YouTube. When I started making YouTube videos, I was in the military, and I remember we were training all the time. So all I did was I'd wake up early in the morning and we would be doing some sort of physical training. And then after that, we'd go get food, and I was at school all day. And then after that, I'd get home and it would be super late. It'd be almost ready to go to bed late. And I remember I just felt like all I was doing was, all my whole identity was just somebody in the military. And at the time, I didn't know who Joe was. And so I wanted a chance to be able to do something that Joe wanted to do outside of all that, a way to kind of decompress, a way to have some fun. And I remember I started toying with the idea of making YouTube videos. And at the time, obviously people, you scroll through YouTube, you watch random things. And I think everybody has that kind of thought. They're like, oh, I could do that. And so when I had that thought, I just said, hey, cool. I looked at my account. I had $400 in my checkings, and I went and I bought a camera. I actually bought this camera here. Got this little Canon Vixia camcorder and a tripod. And in my head, the reason I got the camcorder is because I'm trying to make a video. I need a camcorder. Cameras are for photos, camcorders are for videos. That's all I thought I knew. And then I bought this, and I had it on my desk, and I set it on my desk until I kind of figured things out. And I spent so much time thinking about the little things. And I didn't realize at the time how many things I had done right, because I was sitting there, and I'd be in class, or I'd be on duty, or I'd be doing something. I'd just be sitting there what should my channel name be? What should I make YouTube videos about? What should I do? And I remember thinking to myself that in order to make YouTube videos, if I want to be big on YouTube, I got to be the best at something. And so at the time, I'm not anymore, but I was 160 pounds, and I was like, you know what? I can eat fast. A lot faster than everybody else. Being a Marine, you go to the chow hall and through boot camp, through school, through all this stuff. You got to clear your plate in minutes. You know what I mean? And so I was like, hey, let me try to make food challenge videos. And I actually started my YouTube channel with a niche. And then as I got different interests and different things, that niche kind of spread out. And that's where I started making my big mistake. And that's in my head. That's why I tell myself I didn't blow up. I guess that's that little voice in my head. Yeah, man, you could have been again, I'm making a joke out of this. I don't really think that would have been huge or anything like that. Like the whole thing isn't about the followers or the subscribers or necessarily the money or anything like that, but it's just been the creative journey, the creative pursuit. And I've loved it. You know, I've got this tattoo to remind me how much I just like creating as a whole. I love cameras. I love the ins and outs of cameras. I love talking about cameras. I love using cameras. But again, to get back to the story, I just remember I was making these eating videos, and I wasn't worried about the views or subscribers or anything like that. All I remember is it was just such a hustle at that time. Like, I was spending money, not expecting to earn a cent. And I was eating these foods and I was putting out on the internet, and then I would go door to door. I'd go to all my friends. I'd be standing at the lunch hall, and it was almost like I didn't have business cards or anything, but I was almost passing out business cards. I'd be in line like, hey, you watch YouTube videos? Yeah. Oh, great. Well, I make YouTube channel or YouTube videos doing this. Go check it out. And if they said no, I'd just move on to the next person. I was literally, everyone I'd walk by is like, hey, I'm Joe. I make YouTube videos. Check it out. Hey, I'm Joe. You know, I was probably spamming people pretty hard, but in real life, not even social media. And I started on social media. And if you're thinking about doing that and you want to post a YouTube video and Facebook and Instagram, and if you're going to take that 5-minute video you made and post it everywhere, looking back after being someone that did that, I wouldn't do that again. You know, I'd try to make something unique or make it different everywhere, so that you don't have like 10 people that really love to watch your stuff. And you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to make the people that actually like your stuff watch the same thing 4 times. You know, at least have the courtesy to make it different a little bit, or to put a different spin on it. That's why, you know, I used to post literally the same stuff on all the channels, like on all the social media platforms, but I don't do that anymore. I actually don't use social media. I'm all in on YouTube. I'm not posting on Instagram. I'm not posting on Facebook. I'm not posting on anything like that. I'm really dialed in, really focused on this now. So it's just crazy to see how far things have come. And again, when I was making the food challenge videos, it kind of turned into, I started seeing, like I said, the people doing food challenges at the time was, the big ones are Matt Stoney and Furious Pete. Those are the 2 that I was watching the most. And then I remember I saw Furious Pete vlogging, which led me to Roman Atwood, Casey Neistat. And then I wanted to start vlogging, because I realized that I didn't have a beginning. I didn't have an end. I just started a camera, started eating. That's all it was. And I was trying to be a better creator and trying to be better on camera and know how to record and kind of how to do that. Like, all the excuses that people have on why they don't start YouTube videos, like, I don't know how to record. I don't know how to do B-roll. I don't even know what that is. All the excuses I kind of went through. Like, I didn't tell them myself. I just kind of figured it out. And that's kind of what led me where I'm at now. That's why I'm into cameras. I never picked up a camera before that. And now I started, I mean, not as much right now anymore. I'm doing YouTube, but I had a freelance creative business at one point. Like, it got to be, you know, that big in the cameras for a while. And yeah, going back, you know, I got into vlogging. Once I got into vlogging, I want to make my vlogs look good. So I started emulating the things Casey Neistat did, which got me into a DSLR camera. I got a Canon 70D, my first camera with a detachable lens. And then I started taking photos for the thumbnails. And I remember I took a photo of a lizard and a brick wall. And then when I saw the detail shots on those, I realized how powerful the cameras were. And then that's what kind of got me into photography, and, you know, got into Peter McKinnon, and here we are now. You know, that's kind of how I started on YouTube. That's been my journey. And up until now, it's been for fun purely, pretty much. I didn't niche down. I didn't expect anything out of it. But now I really see a big opportunity here, and I'm trying to take that opportunity. So yeah. And that, I guess that's that. But to kind of finish this live stream up and this podcast episode up, you know, I have had the Morning Cup of Joe podcast for a couple of years now, but I haven't made an episode in over a year, well over a year. And when I first started the podcast, the one thing I didn't like is I didn't have my ducks in a row. I would just set up a mic and I would talk to it, and then I'd put it out on the internet, and I'm like, hey, I'll talk about this business advice. I'll talk about cameras. I'll talk about YouTube. I'll talk about this. And again, I was all over the place. The second season, I made it the ultimate creator podcast, which it still is, but now kind of that specific thing I talk about on there is I talk about the creative process now, because I'm realizing how important the processes are and how different each of ours is as creators. But the second season I loved because I started reaching out. I was really big on social media. I was on there a lot, and I would reach out to other creators, and I'd have them on there, and I would have a question that I would have or had just had, and I'd have them answer it. And I remember I had just a lot of guests. So I really loved how guest oriented it was season 2. And for season 3, I don't really know what guests to have. I don't really know what to talk about by myself. I don't have a co-host. And I just had all these excuses and so I just never made it. And so the other day I was thinking about it, and that's when I was driving and it hit me. Why don't I just make it about the creative process? There's so much to talk about. There's so much to dive in. I can have guests on here. I can not have guests on here. But why do I just keep it simple for myself and have fun with it? So the YouTube channel, I mean, it's all here. I'm here because I enjoy it all, and I'm trying to enjoy it all. But the podcast is definitely one of those things that I'm not taking as seriously at all. I mean, maybe we go in a direction later on, but as of right now, I just enjoy making the podcast. I enjoy learning about the creative aspects behind trying to figure out how to go live on YouTube, trying to set up a multi-camera, setup. I got 2 cameras here for the live stream. If you're watching the live stream, you're only going to see this camera, but I have a second camera over here. I got 2 lights, and I've got 2 mics running at the same time, kind of backup for myself in case something messes up. I really hope this mic works here, because if this one doesn't, then the live stream has just been me just like, yeah, that would be terrible. Just have a 30-minute video of me running my lips with no audio. Hopefully some of y'all can lip read if that's the case, but I don't know what this live video looks like yet. I got to look on here and check it out. I don't even think I made a thumbnail for it, but I don't think the streaming website I'm using actually let me put the thumbnail up. So I got to change that after I get off. But yeah, I mean, if you're sitting here trying to create something and you're listening or watching to this point, this is the first time the podcast actually been video as well as audio. It's always been audio. It's just been mics, but now it's camera and video, and it's live. We're trying a lot of new things here. But if you're here at this point and you have a creative ambition and you want to make a YouTube channel, you want to make a YouTube video, you want to talk about, or you want to start using that camera more, you want to take photos, whatever your goal is, just get started. Because while you may not be as good or as proficient with it as the people ahead of you that you look up to are, the only reason they got there is because at one point they started. And of course, like for YouTube, the best time to start as a YouTuber would have been when the platform started, but the second best time is now. Don't wait until tomorrow or a month from now or 5 years from now or until the next app comes out. Like, you might as well start now, so when the next opportunity comes up, you're able to take it instead of being in the same place you are right now. So with that being said, I think that's the first episode. I covered everything I wanted to cover. So catch you on the flip. And if you're watching this live, hey, thanks. Appreciate you. And if you're watching or listening to this as a podcast episode, I appreciate you too. So for all the real ones, and for you, Franklin Meyer, appreciate you. I'll catch you later. Let me go ahead and end this while you just stare at my face really quick. End stream.